Nice one, mate. Whereabouts are you?
In Halifax at home.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
always stayed there, kind of thing.
Yeah, we sort of moved here in '98. I was sort of born in Bailiff Bridge, which is a couple of miles down the road. And then lived in Barnsley shortly, and then sort of moved to Halifax here when I was like 26.
Ah, okay. So you
So
never
it's been
got
a
drawn
while.
in, never got drawn in by London or anything.
No, no. I mean, I would have liked to have done, but it's just that my sort of relationship was up here and stuff, and family and that, so I stayed around here.
Yeah, yeah.
About
No, I
you,
was.
where you live?
I'm in Manchester these days, but originally from Hull, so not too far away from Halifax. But yeah,
Yeah.
and I was
Hell,
there last summer for at the Peace Hall, and you're playing there this year.
yeah, yeah. Is it Hell Hull and Halifax? Deliver me from Hell Hull and Halifax. That's done you in tonight, isn't it?
So I think Halifax is a bit nicer than Hull. Like when I've been recently, I've quite enjoyed it. It's quite nice, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I mean, I've done a few gigs there. I'm in another band called Eva. We've done gigs that are in sort of like the rougher end of town, like the Adelphi, and Polar Bear and stuff. And so I kind of had a bit of a thing in my thinking it was, maybe not as nice as Halifax, but we did a gig in the centre of town. I think last year, Embrace, and it's just beautiful there, all the old town and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So needed to reevaluate it really.
I feel like everywhere's getting a bit better, isn't it? Well,
Oh,
kind of
hopefully.
up,
Until very recently.
up
Yeah.
north, I mean, anyway, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, mate, well, cheers for jumping on and sending your songs across. Obviously, a bit of a different vibe for the pod, really. It's usually focused on bands that, kind of made the name of the 2000s, but you made your name before that, really.
In
Um,
the 90s, eh?
yeah, like, do you, that thing is fit into a scene? Is it more of a 90s thing, or was it we always doing your own thing?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. We sort of started out by sounding. You kind of start sounding like your influences, really. So at the beginning, we sort of sounded like U2, Echo and the Bunnymen, sort of Joy Division, James, Chameleons, Smiths, Cure. Um, that was a sort of like the sort of big melting pot of that sort of guitar bass noise, really. And it wasn't really until we started getting sort of songs that were maybe a bit more ambitious, like with strings and horns, which kind of came along when our keyboard player joined Mickey. Sort of freed up loads of songs on piano and stuff, whereas previously we've been kind of battling to get like a bigger sound just using guitars and stuff. And then you just plug a synth in, and suddenly, it's wow, it's there, just a full kind of onslaught of noise. And when we came out, it's sort of like the kind of ink is like, the NME and the Melody Maker were sort of saying, maybe this is the end of Britpop or it's the start of something new, because we were kind of being maybe a bit more psychedelic than sort of like referring to the past, like the 60s. Britpop seemed to be all about sort of like referencing the Beatles and the Kinks and the Who and stuff, and we weren't really about that. So we felt like we were sort of taking it in a new direction. So I don't know if we ever really truly fit into that, although now definitely we do, and certainly abroad we do because we're British and we play guitars. The first thing they'd say, "So you are Britpop," and then our Danny'd go off on one about how we're not Britpop.
Yeah, what was your relationship like with him growing up in terms of music? Was were you playing together early on?
Yeah, we got it going really early on. We were like, I think 14 when we started Embrace, in its most sort of embryonic form. I was into metal. Um, that's how I started playing guitar, through like Iron Maiden and Metallica and Anthrax and Slayer, and then even further down that rabbit hole, I went into like UK hardcore scene and American hardcore scene, and then I was in a couple of bands that sort of played that sort of stuff, but it was always very sort of it was sort of wrapped up in not selling out, and it sort of was really unambitious, or didn't want to make anything more of it or try to make anything more of it, because that was just lame, or you were seen as being a plastic if you were going to do that. um but I was kind of into the idea of getting into a bigger band, like the Cure and the Smiths and U2 and stuff. So it was kind of, I think I must have said to Danny one night, do you fancy sort of joining, doing a band together? And then he just like talked at me for about 2 hours about how amazing it was going to be. I remember it well. I was sort of lying in bed, like dying to go to sleep, and just like, oh, right, yeah, 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 mate, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be great. He just went off on one because that's who he is. Um, and then we've kind of been surfing that wave of belief ever since, I think.
Yeah, is it quite organic though when it came to writing the songs?
No, we were terrible. We were absolutely terrible to begin with. It was kind of like we were sort of learning how to do it without a manual. Really, we were kind of like I'd like listen to an album and then like write down what happened where. you know, like this one goes intro. I think it was Stone Roses' first album. I was wrote down all the songs and what happened. Just like intro, then it does like a bit of a verse, and then there's like a little bit of a guitar bit, and then it's another verse, and then a chorus, and then another chorus, and then an outro. And I think that's probably where the structure for Good Good People came from. That's got an unusual structure really. It goes like two verses and then a chorus, a middle eight, and then a chorus, and then an outro. It wasn't until the noughties where we started being inverted commas produced, where we did the old verse chorus middle eight kind of chorus cookie cutter formula that seemed to be in a lot of what we've done. It seems to work really well a lot of the time. So yeah, it wasn't natural at all. It was hard won. We fought for it, and we got there. Amazingly. Looking back, I don't know how we did it. Just everything just sort of seemed to slot into place at just at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, was it easy to build momentum in like Halifax or like how did it work?
I mean, there was definitely a scene in and around Leeds, and surrounding towns. Halifax, Huddersfield, or Clec Huddersfax, as we call it. Um, but we weren't really plugged into that. I wouldn't say we'd kind of like done a bit of it, and then got a bad review in the Melody Maker. Kind of like gone home with our tail between the legs and sort of said, right, we need to rework this because everyone thinks we just sound like a lowest common denominator blend of our influences. And then we went away for 3 years, came back with a gig where it was like still really, really ropey, but unpolished diamond kind of thing. We had a few of the big songs that went on to become big songs in the set, but nobody seemed impressed enough for us. So again, we went away again and just refined it and spent all our sort of focus on creating demos that showed the songs to be as good as it possibly can be. And I remember there was like a live Leeds Sound City sort of festival. They have those inner city festivals on Radio 1. And it was Leeds that year. And we just, for some reason, I just knew that something was going to happen. So we sort of did the gig. It went appallingly. Nobody who said they were going to come turned up. And then in the sort of dressing room afterwards, I was sort of saying to Danny, don't worry about it, mate. We've got the demo tape. The demo tape's going to carry us along. And we did actually give the demo tape to a guy that was the head of the label that ended up signing us, but he didn't actually listen to it at that point. We got him to empty a bowl of crisps over his head when we did actually sign. Got a photo of that somewhere. A guy called Ray Cooper. So then we sort of set about sending the demos off to get a management involved. Because we thought that was a better way of going rather than going direct to labels, because you kind of like it's solicited tape then rather than an unsolicited one, if you know what I mean. And out of about 20 that we sent off, I think we got like 15 callbacks. And then me and Danny went down to London on the National Express. Took us about 14 hours to get there, stopping everywhere on the way. Stayed in a hotel that was like £50 a night, the two of us, on what were like two A bales with a cloth over it and a payphone in the room. That was it. I think it was called the King George Hotel. And then we just plotted on the tube a map, like a route around London to see all these managers, and found our management, Tony Perrin at Big Life, and he's still with us. So,
Yes.
and that it seemed to be like a much more kind of well trodden path to making it back then. So you'd sort of, if you got in the NME, then you'd get a certain amount of people at your next gig, and that would spawn like a bunch of A&R people would show up, and then hopefully you'd get a deal. So it was kind of like once we got management, the conversation sort of went up a gear. Like previously, we'd been talking at like an indie label called Sugar, and the head guy there, I think, now runs Cobalt. So, but when Big Life got involved, they started talking about Geffen and Virgin and all these really massive labels. And Stone Roses were signed to Geffen at the time, so that was like a big tick. Yeah, and then they kind of went off and got loads of people interested, and then we did like 3 showcase gigs at or maybe more than 3 at the Duchess of York in Leeds, where everybody started showing up. I think Butch Vig was there at one point. Yeah, pretty mad, really. But I just kind of took it all in my stride at the time because I just had, or we as a band just had like complete belief that it was going to happen. I don't know where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah, how big a factor do you think that plays, like the mentality kind of and the
It,
belief?
it's the size of the fight in the dog, isn't it? I think it's a big portion. It's like 3 things in it: drive, talent, and ambition, and you need all 3. We definitely had the ambition. Danny definitely had the drive, and me probably close behind. And then the talent kind of came along the way to some degree.
Yeah, you kind of like honing your craft as you go, type of thing.
Yeah. I only ever had 1 guitar lesson, and all the way through the guitar lesson, I was just asking him to teach me what my friend had already showed me. And at the end of the lesson, he said, well, "You should probably just get your mate to show you all this." And he drew me one scale on a piece of paper and said, "Here, learn that," which I didn't, and only recently have started taking it seriously. Yeah, so yeah, it was yeah, just did it all ourselves really.
No, it's mad how much I hear that. Obviously, like the classic example is Noel Gallagher, kind of, not getting any lessons or anything. But again, does it
Mm.
come back to belief, just kind of like doing what you think sounds good, basically?
Yeah, yeah. If you see your music written down, looking all professional on like the what's it called, the clef, is it? What's it called? Stave. You see it written down on the lines, you're like, oh wow, we done that. That's pretty impressive. And you get like chords with numbers in them and stuff, like 9s and 11s, and I don't know, that tends to be when you've just left your fingers off a couple of strings, you get those in
All right, yeah, yeah.
there. Yeah, but yeah, we're all pretty much self-taught. I think maybe Mickey might have. Mind you, I don't know. I think Mickey's kind of a natural as well. He's just better than us.
Yeah, and how's that work? Do you like kind of, I don't know, to get to a point where you try and improve certain things about your songwriting, or do you just see where it takes you?
Uh, yeah, you're always trying to show up for it. You're always trying to deliver the best thing you can possibly do. And I've started taking guitar playing more seriously and my tone more seriously and stuff. And it's like the thing with Embrace is like we tend to like write songs in one key, and then we'll take it out on the road, and Danny will say, like, I need to sing this in a lower key. Or, you'll sing it while you're completely warmed up and you're singing at the highest note you can possibly do. And, I've got a couple where I've gone, I might need to just drop this one, lads. So then you get another guitar in the rack for that particular song because it's got open strings on it and stuff. Um, so I've started like, which messes with your tone because like all the guitars sound this, because you're not just going to buy the same one over and over again, are you? When you're a young lad, you're going to say, well, I want this one now, and then I want that one, and then I want to try one of these, and they've all got like wildly different tones. So getting any kind of uniformity across it's kind of quite tricky. But I think I'm finally getting on top of that now.
And like back in the day, did you like build a following in Yorkshire first, or did you go elsewhere to do that? I don't know.
No, no. We always sort of, we wanted to be the North's best kept secret all the time, and but no, we didn't really. We did like I say, we did 5 showcase gigs after we'd written the songs. I mean, we had done loads of gigs before that. Probably done maybe 20 gigs before that. I mean, the Duchess in Leeds and like Huddersfield and Halifax and Bradford. I think we did one in Manchester at the Union somewhere. I think we swapped that for another gig with somebody else. They did one in Leeds and we did one over there. So we kind of done a little bit of it, but then realised that wasn't the quickest way to get to where we wanted to be. So yeah, there was no. I wouldn't say there was a massive following. We maybe could, when we did the Duchess at the end of that run of the first kind of like iteration of Embrace, we maybe could pull 60 people to our hometown show, which is enough for the guy who runs the venue to ask you back. So it's respectable and still is a respectable amount of money for a amount of people for a small band. But yeah, I won't say there was a groundswell of support. It just that kind of all came afterwards after we got the deal and we were in the NME. Like I said, people come when to check you out once you've been in there chin scratching and seeing what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, I suppose like the comparison to the 2000s is maybe bands kind of built a bit of momentum before
Mm.
getting the deal, but is what you're saying, like getting management and the deal is what was a catalyst for you, really?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we'd done, like I say, we'd done 20 or 30 gigs, and we brought it live. It was like, we weren't just sort of stood staring at our shoes. We were like giving it some. Um, I was like spinning around like a dervish, and Danny's like shaking his head and all that sort of stuff, running around, jumping in the audience, and trying to get a reaction, and trying to be different from other bands. Mike, kicking the shit out of his drums and stuff. Steve looking cool. Um, so we had kind of like earned our sort of stripes as a local live band, as somebody to go and see because it's a good vibe. So we kind of knew that we had that in the bag really, and we needed to concentrate on the songwriting and get the opportunity sort of in place to show it to more people.
Yeah, yeah. And then in terms of, it's just interesting, like when the 2000s hits, like did you notice a shift in terms of British music or just music in general? Well, guitar music anyway.
Um, yeah, I guess so. We sort of like tucked ourselves away in 1999, into 2000, doing Drawn from Memory, and we sort of came out with that bit more of a funkier kind of sound. Didn't hit quite as well as Good Will Out, and then we felt like we were chasing our tails a bit into the next album. It's kind of like on Coldplay was sort of on the ascendancy, and Snow Patrol and Keane and bands like that. But also like Strokes and stuff that sort of arrived, and so I don't think we really knew which sort of direction we were going in. So we kind of had a lot of songs left over from like previous albums, and I think they just wanted us to get another one out. So we sort of, I mean, it was a full time job. Back in the early days, we'd work 7 days a week. Every week of the year. But it just felt a little bit like we weren't really driving it anymore. We were kind of like following it a little bit. And then we got dropped in 2001 on my birthday.
Wow.
Um, that was, yeah, it was quite scary. But immediately made the decision that we wanted to spend what little money we had and sort of build our own studio to get another deal. And it was kind of like unheard of, getting dropped and then getting another deal back in. So we kind of like what had one eye on sort of like, well, you're going to be playing to your core fans and doing like a DIY thing. But then we were actually playing the Royal Albert Hall at the end of a short tour where we were unsigned. And Andy McDonald from Independiente came down to the show. And then afterwards contacted our management saying, I don't want to mess about. I'm not going to do that whole kind of dance. I want to sign them. So let's get the deal sorted out. And then that bought us a bit of time to write the next album, which took us 2.5 years to write out of nothing with, ashes and stuff on it. And that in its first week went gold. I think it went gold actually before it came out on pre-orders. And that's kind of
Yeah,
when I knew, thank God for that, we're back. Because we'd all been like, I'd been selling everything in the house, literally walking around my house with a clipboard, writing down what things were and how much they were worth, and then selling them on eBay just to cover the bills, guitars, amps, hi-fi gear that I'd bought, a bike, and a couple of the lads got jobs.
yeah. It's
Just
interesting because obviously, like the amount of records you'd sold up until that point, people might think, you'd been set up for life or something. I don't know. Did people think you had been?
um, oh yeah, 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 yeah. People think you're on Top of the Pops and you're a millionaire, but our bass player Steve literally had to get the day off to do Top of the Pops. Um, which is pretty wild, isn't it? When you look at it, you look at Top of the Pops when you're a kid, and everyone on there is a pop star. But no, we were not financially sorted out at all. No,
Is that more down to the deals you signed, or was just not actually that much money involved? I don't know.
no, it's no, it was. we got an amount of money for the first album, which basically put us on £250 a week for the next 5 years. Um, which was cool. I mean, it's more money comes along when you're doing festivals and stuff, but the vibe was at the time like, if you get paid, 50 grand for doing a festival, then let's spend 50 grand on lights. Or, if we get like 30 grand spare on the tour, let's come up with some fancy lights on the tour, or expensive backdrop, or extra musicians, or so it all just kind of came in and went straight back out again. The album itself, we'd have like 30-piece orchestras on a couple of tracks, and if you're getting two done, then they'll give you a session rate. Is a minute is maximum of three, so you might as well get a third one done for the same amount of money, and then we'd end up getting another one done. So it's saying, well, you might as well get another two more, so that's six. I think we ended up, I think, like £2 million of debt by the time we left Virgin. But they'd made a load of money. Just the way those deals are wired means that the bands, don't get paid, and that continues to this day, and they're still trying to shaft bands over.
Yeah.
I just saw a thing recently, I thought this morning actually, where I think the headline was something like major labels are now writing 30-year contracts to stop people from re-recording the back catalogue after they're outside the 5-year agreement clause, like the Taylor Swift versions.
Jesus.
Tying into 30 years, it's like, why don't you just give them a good deal? Just let them
Yeah,
get
yeah.
paid,
Because then the flip side, they can drop you whenever they want.
Yeah, yeah, they get the option,
Yeah, yeah, it's mad.
yeah. But
All
you've
right,
got,
mate. Well,
when you start, you've got nothing, so you sign out, won't you, just to make it work. You just want to be an artist who plays music.
yeah, yeah. Do you think, I don't know, it's hard. I can't imagine being like a young musician and, going into detail on the contract. But I guess do you have to hire, did you hire like a legal
Oh yeah,
person to look at it and all that? Yeah.
yeah, it was a good deal.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a solid deal if everything had gone the way we wanted it to. That's why you kind of got dropped after the third album, not because they didn't think they could sell records, but because the way the deals are structured, it's what's called a mini-max formula. So they'll give you a minimum of X and a maximum of Y based on your sales. So, but the minimum at that, by the time you get to the third album, based on what you get signed for on the third album, is you know 2 times what you got for the first album, and you're selling a third of the records. So the maths just doesn't math, and they have to let you go.
Right, okay. That's interesting stuff.
Mm,
But cheers for sending across your song choices. So we'll
yeah.
crack into them.
Okay.
And yeah, obviously like a staple of any indie night back in the day. Massive song by the Walkmen.
Oh yeah.
Why this
Yeah.
particular song?
Well, when you said, what are your favourite noughties songs, first I had to remember what the noughties were. And then like pull some memory of what I was doing in the noughties and what happened in the noughties. And yeah, the rap just popped out as a song that it was kind of like, I think it came out a bit later than The Strokes. I think theirs was like 2001, wasn't it? And I think that came out in about like mid noughties, wasn't it? Like
Yeah, a couple
2004
of
or
years
five.
later or something. Yeah.
And it was kind of like on that sort of vein of like yeah yeahs and White Stripes and Strokes, and then they came along, and I just love how it sort of starts and it's going at full pelt already, and then guitarist joins in and he's going at full pelt, and then the bass comes in and he's going at full pelt, and then the singer starts singing and he's giving it as much as he can, and it only kind of lets up in the middle eight very briefly, and it's just that wave of energy that I love. It was just like, wow, you don't have to like calm it down for the verse while the singing starts and then like go full blast in the chorus and then down again. You can just, get your finger out all the way through. It's kind of like angry, kind of atmospheric. Um, yeah, angular. Yeah, loved it.
Okay, so let's play it. Here's the Walkman with the rat. See, like during that era, then like when the rat's getting played at indie nights, if you like, at the time. You loving those kind of nights out at the time?
No, I didn't really go out much at the time at all. No, I had like a young family, and I'd kind of like go see mates. I go to the local, and sit in a corner somewhere and have a couple of pints. Wasn't really a big drinker back then. So no, indie nights. I was probably a little bit old for it as well. Maybe by then, I don't know what's that. 2004. I'll have been like 30, 32.
No, fair play. Yeah.
With me top off in the middle of the dance floor, scissor kicking.
Yeah, I mean, like with the 90s, I mean, people reminisce about the 90s as being like, hedonistic and that. Did you get involved in that lifestyle, the rock and roll lifestyle or anything?
No, I didn't get into any of that until much later.
Oh, really? Came later for you, did it?
Yeah, much later. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, fair enough.
Without giving too much away, but yeah, I'm
Ah,
all
okay.
right. I'm all right now, though.
Right, right. We kind of more just focused on doing a good job in terms of the music.
I think I was scared of what it would do to me. Um, is the truth, really. I kind of like I'm sort of content and comfortable in who I am. I feel like I've been mad enough as a kid, and I that many near death experiences that I don't really need any more thrill. Throw myself under trains and off bridges and set myself on fire and all kinds of dopey stuff. I should have been a stuntman, really. So yeah, I didn't really feel the need to, pop pills or take drugs. Just never really, and I didn't want to, I didn't want it to twist my melon or whatever. Because I've got quite an addictive personality. So that's kind of always worried me a bit as well when I start getting too into something. Um, I can get a bit too into it, if you know what I mean.
No, yeah, fair play. Then the next band, Interpol, another great song, but why this particular one?
Well, I've just started getting back into them lately. Actually, they were the first one that I picked on the list. But I've written them. I don't know why I've written them in a different order. I thought, oh yeah, I've got to get Interpol on there. It's just something in his kind of like Ian Curtis delivery and the way the guitars are all. It's kind of like classical clanging, um, but with loads of distortion, and it's just got bags of attitude, and it's kind of dark, and I like that. And I found out when I was reading up on it that it was produced by Gareth Jones, who worked with Depeche Mode, but also worked on Out of Nothing on our fourth album, and I didn't know that at the time. Um, yeah, I just thought it was like just another engineer because it's like as humble as they come. He's a lovely bloke. But yeah, it turns out that he's actually an Uber producer. Yeah, but it's got that kind of like ride kind of level of sort of guitars all squalling away, and yeah, that's what I'm into it for.
Okay, so let's play it then. Here's Interpol with Untitled. Did you play with a lot of these or many of these bands from the 2000s? I suppose you would at festivals and that, but
Let's have a look. I don't think we've ever played with any of them. No, no,
fair enough.
no. No.
But you were into the likes of the Strokes and that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember we came back from the studio. What album was that I did? We were going down to London and back mixing, and we'd listen to it like all the way up the M1, and I think it's only about 30 minutes long in it.
Hmm.
So that must have been about 6 times or something on the way up. But yeah, I love that. The first album, that was brilliant.
Were you ever taken with like the likes of Libertines or not really?
No, they were kind of. I think by the time the Libertines came along, I was sort of like really deep into like being a dad, and I just had like a couple of kids. And they kind of passed me by really. And then I remember being on holiday on a camping trip, and they're on the radio, and I think "Can't Stand Me Now" came up, and I thought, oh, this is cool. And then what's the other one called?
Time for Heroes, yeah.
Yeah, that's genius. I love that. And we met Pete actually last year, and he's a really sweet guy. Um, we were
Oh
saying
yeah.
how loud we were.
Where was that?
It was at a festival. What's it called now? Is it Lazy Days? That'd be Lazy Days, maybe. Yeah,
Ah, okay. Yeah, weirdly I saw them at saw Libertines at Peace Hall last year.
right.
But it's a great venue, isn't it?
Oh, it's an amazing venue. Yeah, I love it. Played it twice before, and I'm so looking forward to playing it again. I think I'm like trying to crowbar more songs into the set so we can stay on stage for longer. So I just absolutely love it. It's like literally 10 minute walk from my house.
And did it sell out quite quickly as well?
A few weeks. Yeah, a few weeks. It wasn't like Beatlemania, but yeah, it went before some that I thought would beat it. But Yeah, I think 6,200 seats. They were on about upping the cap because they're looking to like rearrange the stalls and everything to get a few more people in if they wanted to make it 7,000. But I think they're going to wait till next year to do that now.
All right. That must be a nice feeling though, like, don't know, playing a mint venue like that and know it's going to be sold out without having to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, you are kind of always like a little bit, woo, is this the year when, we don't sell it out? I mean, the first year that we got offered it, I said absolutely not, because it was the kind of the first year that they put gigs on there, maybe the second. And we got the offer, and I said, "Oh no, we can't do that," because all the way up until that, previous years, the history of it, they've always tried to put gigs on, and it's always kind of been a bit of a flop. It's always been a bit of a bogey venue.
Ah, okay.
Um, so I was really nervous about like embarrassing myself in my hometown, because I remember when we were playing arenas back in 2005 that we put a gig on at the Halifax Victoria Theatre, and people were more impressed that we'd sold that out than they were that we'd sold out the arena. You know what I mean? It's like, what? It's on its Civic. Like, wow. Remember, it was in there when we sold it out. It was in the Halifax Courier, like a local, feature. And a roving reporter, had gone down to the box office at the Civic Hall to, chat to fans and get a bit of a vibe for the band. And there were four people there. Two of them was my cousin and her mate, and the other two didn't want to be named. So it's very humbling living in Yorkshire.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate.
Quite
Definitely.
rarely so.
All right, moving on to the next band then. Only know a few songs by him really, but very critically acclaimed band, The Flaming Lips. Why this
Oh
particular
yeah.
song?
Because I know that it's in the noughties. I've got a really beautiful memory of that song when it came out, and that is I was at my ex brother-in-law's wedding with my daughter, and it was there. It was in America, so they have like a rehearsal dinner. That's the big party day, and it was like a big, kind of fancy affair. Um, and I didn't really know what to do with myself because I didn't really know anybody. So I just went to dance to I put "Do You Realise" on by the Flaming Lips in front of all these kind of conservative American sort of families, and I was just swinging Ella around in my arms, dancing to it, which was beautiful because she's actually Ella, my daughter's an artist. I don't know if you know that. Ellur. I'm on tour.
No,
I'm on
I,
tour with her
inst
at the moment, actually.
I interviewed her last summer, mate. Yeah,
Oh, did you?
the gig she played in Leeds with Kaiser Chiefs and that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she's
funny. I
great.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so yeah, I was sort of like swinging her around to that, and she's actually become sort of like pen pals with Wayne Coyne because he wants her to sing on one of his songs. That's kind of a bit of a full circle kind of moment there. But yeah, the Flaming Lips, it's just the sort of ambition and the size and the joy of like being alive and the kind of day glow colour of it that I love.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so well, here it is. Here's The Flaming Lips with Do You Realise? Yeah, that's funny. Like she did mention that her dad was a musician, but she didn't give
She,
too many. She didn't give too many
yeah,
details.
she
Yeah.
likes to keep me on the DL. She's either keeping me on the DL or wearing an embrace cap, and there doesn't seem to be a middle ground. Depends what mood she's in, I guess.
What's that been like then, seeing her come up, kind of thing?
I was just so super proud of her. I think she's, it's hard enough doing it when you're in a band and with your brother um, backing you up, and she's done it all on her own. And she writes songs which like are genuinely, I think, genuinely amazing, and the lyrics are just off the scale. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
She seems to be like definitely building a lot of momentum.
yeah, yeah, quite right, man. Yeah, just been
Yeah,
I'm doing the monitor sound for her at the moment. Like what they get on stage, the sound that they get on stage. So I've been out touring with her doing that, which is it's quite hard, really. It's quite physical. I didn't realize how physical it was, like lifting gear up and downstairs and in a van and stuff. It's a young man's game.
yeah. But did she like show an interest early on then in making music?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the intro to her album is dancing around the living room. I'm kind of sat on the floor and she's dancing around the living room in her mum's dress, talking about how her band is going to be. I think it's called Purple Purple Love Heart Band. I think it was called. I'm like, well, that's a good name. And then she's like, "Oh no, just Love Heart Band," and I'm going to play one of those things that tinks like a triangle. So she started pretty early on with the kind of vision of wanting to do it. Yeah. And to see it, happening now, and the offers that she's getting are getting bigger and bigger, and she's just like, doing really well. I love it.
Nah, that's it, mate. Nice one. Is she going to play with you? You say you've been playing with her or
I've
something?
been doing the monitors for
Sorry, is that what you meant? Right. Okay. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sound. Yeah, yeah. I did used
Go
to
on.
play guitar for her, but she replaced me during lockdown. I was kind of like did like a few things together and performances, and then she went and found a band, rightly so.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot more, not, well, yeah, like bands or artists in that position where it'd be like them with a band type of thing. Don't know. Maybe more than there used to be.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think someone said there's no bands in the top 10, like a couple
Yeah,
of
yeah.
months ago. So an article saying that there's no bands anywhere anymore, and it's because it's fucking expensive, man. Price of everything
Yeah.
goes up, and the ticket prices stay where they are. And the bands are squeezed more and more, and it's just you've got to have a big heart, you know and really really want your truth in order to, or see it as your sort of purpose in order to see it through, because it's very easy to sort of go, fuck this, I can't be asked anymore. um yeah, so that's
Yeah,
probably why there's not as many. Plus there's a lot more distractions as well these days. Back in the day you used to have to sit and read a newspaper
yeah.
or look out the window.
Actually played with Embrace though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we've done a few gigs together. Did like a bit of a did a tour. She's jumped on a couple on her own on guitar, and she played with us at Peace Hall. I think last time we played.
Ah, yes.
Um, yeah, so I was out the front watching her at the Embrace gig. I was out the front at the Peace Hall watching her, and a mate of mine from school like said hello. And the guy that he was with, who's that? He's like, "It's Rick band, you dickhead."
Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of newspapers and that, did you always have a good relationship with likes of NME and stuff?
It's the same relationship that all bands have in that when at the beginning when they're trying to like create a bit of a vibe to sell papers, they nobody can say a bad word about you. I remember we did a terrible gig and got a great review for it, and I'm like, this is bullshit. And then you know, then you get the next part of the wave, whereas all the writers that wanted to slag you off who weren't allowed to are then allowed to. You're free reign for anybody to ever go. So you get people having a pop. Um, So it was like, it's a balanced kind of thing, I guess. We did get, I mean, the initial attention that we got was, great, very welcome.
Yeah, yeah. All right, mate. Well, on to the next song.
Yeah, you've
Um,
frozen. So,
sorry, I think I think the internet's struggling a bit. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I
Uh,
remember we played at the Blackpool ballroom with Coldplay supporting, and while Coldplay were playing, I had to go and do an interview with the NME with a writer called Siobhan Grogan, I think. Um, so neither of us saw the gig, and then the review for the gig was that we weren't great and that Coldplay were amazing. And she wasn't at the gig. She was talking to me.
oh dear.
Yeah, it's a shit business.
Yeah, someone was asking about your relationship with Coldplay. Like, wanted to know. It's from James Powell on Instagram. He said, "Would love to know the story around Gravity and how they ended up, or Chris Martin ended up writing it with you or something."
Yeah, it's started with a lot of times. But it was played with us at Blackpool. My dad kind of went to collar Chris, and said, "Do you want to come and meet the band?" And him and Danny really hit it off and sort of exchanged every number under the sun. Like my number, my mum's number, my home number, my mobile number. And then they've just kind of like stayed in touch over the years. And then it got to, I think they were recording their third album, and we were on our fourth, I think. And him and Danny were sort of playing songs to each other. I think he said he was on Angelina Jolie's spaceship the first time he heard it, because Angelina Jolie was starring, and Gwyneth Paltrow was starring in this film called Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow or something. I don't think it was a hit. But out in the car park at the studios was this spaceship, and him and Chris were songs. And he played Gravity to Danny, and Danny was like, wow, that's amazing. That's one of your best songs. That's up there with like The Scientist and stuff. Can't believe how good it is, And I think Chris was like saying how much he liked Ashes and stuff. Anyway, cut forward to like a month or two later when we actually finished recording the album, and we were just mixing. So I'd like putting the finishing touches to the mixes. And he called Danny up and sort of said, I've had a chat with the band, and we don't want to do Gravity for our record because we think it sounds a little bit too much like Embrace, and we're kind of like wanting to take things in a new direction, and we wondered if you wanted the song. And then Danny kind of had his moment of like, no, we don't do covers. We write our own songs. That's what we're known for. Didn't say this to Chris, but that's just kind of like his immediate reaction. And then Danny brought it to us, and we all had the same reaction, in turn. But we all thought about it overnight and came back to the studio and said, why don't we just give, international artist offering us a song, and we'd be fucking idiots to turn it down. And I love it. I love the song, Whenever we play it, I'm always like looking forward to playing it. So that's kind of how that went.
Yeah,
and then we gave it back to Chris, and like one of Danny's things on the fourth album was how Youth had kind of sped up all the tracks, and Danny thought they were all too fast. And he'd be playing them to Chris, and Chris would be saying, "Oh no, man, they sound great. They sound like the best you've ever sounded. It's much more like lively and vital, and much more faster than the third album." So it was quite funny when we recorded Gravity and Danny played it to Chris, and Chris was like, "Oh, is this it? Oh, it feels a bit fast." Suffering from exactly the same kind of like fear of speed.
Yeah, White Stripes, like that album was a big one for me. Did you enjoy it at the time, obviously?
Ball and Biscuit.
Yeah. On
Yeah,
album,
it's kind of the song that got me into him, really, because I was wandering around HMV and it was on, and I kind of thought, wow, it sounds really cool and sort of Hendrixy. Really sort of like rootsy, basic blues, which isn't something that I was into, really. And just like the, what we call the good bit, shit bit element of like quiet and loud. It's just like blew me away. So I immediately bought the album on vinyl and rinsed it for weeks. I think it's called Ball and Biscuit because of the microphone that he used. I think.
Yeah,
It's like a round mic with a flat bit on it. But yeah, all recorded to 24-inch tape, mastered to half-inch tape, and then printed to vinyl and all that kind of purity that was going on with that. I was all over that as well, into that at the time, vinyl and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, well, here it is. Here's the White Stripes with Ball and a Biscuit. And then, is it the only British band you got on here? Or maybe a second?
Is it?
One or two British bands with Arctic Monkeys. Why this particular song?
I got the tapes before they'd all come out, the Arctic Monkeys, because they'd kind of been passed around the industry a little bit. And I kind of got into them before they were sort of like not, I didn't find them or anything, but I was sort of ahead of a lot of people with it. And we were doing this DJing gig in Glasgow on the Renfrew ferry, me and our Danny. I think it was like the Jack Daniels night or something. We used to get these agents and send us these DJing gigs to do, and we'd turn up and just spin a few CDs. I'd get drunk. And one of the songs was Fake Tales of San Francisco, which we put on. And I remember this woman coming over and saying, "That's shite. Why are you going to play any of the good stuff?" I'm like, "Mate, you wait till next year. You're going to be fucking dancing all over every dance floor of this song." I think we played a couple of them actually that night. But picked Fake Tales because we actually did a cover of it. Actually, um, you get asked to do like covers by BBC One, Radio One. So you throw a few in the air and see which ones land, and that one sounded ace. But it was me singing it, and they wanted Ad to sing it, so we did Eminem instead.
All right. Which Eminem song did you do?
It was D12. It was How Come. It actually did really well in there, like in the polls that they have. I think it came like in the top three, I think, of best ones of all time, live lounges a few
Yes.
years ago. Yeah. But up until like a minute before we went live while we were rehearsing it, it sounded like utter shite, and I was really really nervous because it was our big comeback on Radio One. But then it finished. I was kind of thought, oh, I think that sounded sort of all right. And then all the DJs like going, oh my god, that was amazing. I was like, dodged the bullet there.
Yeah, it was a big deal at the time, wasn't it? Live
Mm,
Lounge.
mm.
Definitely, yeah. I let's play Monkeys, and here they are with Fake Tales of San Francisco. And then halfway through, so we'll dig into some questions. Got one on Patreon from poor Big Liz. Obviously, a World Cup year. Like,
Yeah,
wanted to ask how it came about back in the day when you wrote was it the official song for England?
yeah, yeah. Well, that kind of came after a long run. Well, on our third album, what I kind of realised was the reason that it didn't go as well as we thought it could, and we eventually ended up getting dropped, is because we said no to literally everything. Um, like initially we said no to going on Top of the Pops unless we could do it with an orchestra, which they said okay to, and then we paid for the Abbey Road thing, and then they cut the whole orchestral section out of the middle. And we said no to like working with like different artists, and no to like lots of things in the fear of it being seen as uncool or selling out or any of those other things that you really shouldn't concern yourself with. So when we came to do Out or Nothing, we sort of switched it around and started saying yes to everything, like yes and rather than no and. Um, so that's why we worked with the producer with Youth. That's why we let the artistic direction go to someone else on the artwork. I mean, with us in consultation and wanting it to, putting our input in and everything. But just yes to stylists, yes to, yes to the things you should say yes to, really, if you want to be a success, because there are people out there who are good at that, and you're not good at that. You're good at being a musician, hopefully. Um, so when the World Cup song came along, initially our label went, no, we don't think that's a good idea. But we all went, yeah, let's do it. And because we all went, yeah, they went, oh, well, okay, then let's see what happens with it. They weren't like pressing us to do it at all. And I think they were on a short list of one band, they said, that they wanted to do it. So we thought, great, man, this is going to be great. World Cup song, that's, everyone's going to get behind it, and it's going to be such a uniting sort of experience, and it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for the team and good for the country, whatever. So we did it, but then it quickly became sort of idea really, because the single ended up being the World Cup song, like the tide of opinion against us, and then the singles that came after that didn't really get considered by Radio One and stuff. So it's sort of like clipped the wings of the album really. They gave us like the FA gave us like 4 tickets to see a match in Germany. There's 5 of us in the band. Do you know what I mean? There was like talk from some players that they wanted a hip hop song rather than an indie song. So a bit of like snobbery going on there. They didn't want to be in the video. We asked like some of the old World Cup squad if they wanted to be in the video, and they wanted extortionate amounts of money because it's all
Oh,
about
really?
money. It's all about money, football. As it turns out, I didn't know. So we played like this PFA awards ceremony, and we were like over by like the teams that are lower down in the leagues, like Sheffield and stuff at the time, and they were like, "Go on, lads!" Giving us good vibes. But then all the like Premier League like just like snubbing us and stuff, and just left us with a really nasty taste. It's one of my biggest regrets doing that song. That and smoking. Yeah, if I could live my life again, I wouldn't go near it with a barge pole. And I advise anybody else thinking of doing it not to do it either.
No, fair
It's like
enough.
we nearly ended up splitting band up. You know what I mean?
So you've been breaking up a bit. Well, why would it nearly break the band up. Sorry.
It just like everything became so much more pressurized. Being on the cover of the Daily Mirror and having to play the Prince's Trust and like things not going as well as what they were going. Like since Out of Nothing came out, every day, every week was like a good news day in terms of like things happening, going the way we wanted them to. And then as soon as football got involved, it all started being, no, no this, no that, no that, no the other. And it
Okay.
just kind of just can really put a downer on it. So we all kind of said, let's have a break, and the 3 month break turned into like a 7 year break. And it wasn't until I got some songs together, so I said I wanted to go back in the studio again. That it started to build again. I mean, it worked out quite well in terms of my family because I saw my kids, grow up. Whereas previously I might have been away for much of that. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
regret that.
But like, we were always heavily involved with the production then from early on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like we've used producers before, but up until youth getting involved, we always kind of got our own way because we just bully whoever it was. Nah, fuck off, mate. We're doing it this way. But you say that to youth, it's like, no, you're not doing that. You're doing it this fucking way. And then he'd like look around the room and he'd have like Gareth, the producer of the Interpol, on the computer, and he'd have, Tim Brown, who's gone on to produce like London Grammar and stuff, in his car, saying, "What do you think, Tim? What do you think, Gareth?" And they go, "Oh, well, I think you're right, youth." And then like a couple of members or 3 members of the band would go, "Well, I agree with youth as well." And then me and our Danny are like, "Well, hang on a minute, you know, I think this." It's like, "Well, fuck off, we're doing it this way for now. And if you don't like it, we can come back to it later. By which time your blood stopped boiling and you calm down." And oh, actually, yeah, it's right. It's like Ashes. We initially went in with that, and it were a ballad. And youth's like, "Well, this needs a four to the floor drum beat under it, obviously." I'm like, "What? What planet is he on?" And then the more you play it, the more you're like, "Actually, yeah, shit, this sounds like a massive single." Yeah. So yeah, we've always kind of been involved. Um, didn't really start doing any actual production when I was completely in charge until, doing different bands until like 2006, I think, is when I started.
Okay. So how does it work for like say the latest album? Is that all your work?
Yeah, yeah. So we send Danny ideas, and then the ones that chime with him, he always gets ideas. So then we throw in a pot, and then we go around to Mickey's house to sort of like rustle them into like workable demos, and then we bring that to the band, and I sort of produce it from the desk, and then sort of mix it after that.
Okay. Is that where you are now then, or is that just another studio like a homemade studio?
Yeah, nice is yeah, some my studio.
Nice.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, yeah. All right, mate, then cracking back into the songs. Another brilliant song by Band of Horses. Kind
Yeah,
of yeah, kind of a timeless classic, really.
yeah. Well, I found this song from I don't know why, but I was looking at mountain biking videos on YouTube, and I think it's Danny McCaskill in it. It was like he did like a montage of his like riding around Edinburgh, like jumping on top of post boxes and jumping off buildings and stuff to that tune. So that's kind of where I got into it. Um, and yeah, it's just a really simple but massively effective. Um, yeah, not more
Yeah.
to say about that really. I don't
No,
really know
yeah.
much about it or them but yeah, just I was kind of like looking at when I said when you said noughties, and I'm thinking, well, when was the noughties? And I went back and googled what was out in the noughties, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, that one. That's an absolute banger. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
love it. There's actually a song on our new album that kind of like nods towards that, and I sort of said, well, maybe we should try it in a bit more of that like Band of Horses sort of style. A song called Deny. Um, it's got a similar sort of guitar motif to it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next artist, kind of prolific in the noughties, really, like always bringing stuff out. Ryan
Well, I
Adams.
mean, ever since as well. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
he's had about 10 albums out since lockdown, hasn't he? I think. Yeah, I really got into him big style in about 2016, but I've loved him since 2003 because Heartbreaker album is the album that I built the studio to, our studio to. Maybe 2000, no, 2000, no, before that. When was it? 2001. When did it come out? Heartbreaker.
Let's have a look.
I think it was pretty new out when I got into it.
You can find out first.
2000.
Okay.
Came out in 2000. Yes, it'd been like 2001 when I was building the studio. It was like that album was the CD in the boombox, and I must have listened to it, 100 times. Um, but yeah, Come Pick Me Up's a Bella. I thought that was maybe more suited than Sweet Carolina to this kind of show.
Yeah, fair play. And then picking things up a bit with MGMT a bit later on in the 2000s.
Yeah, they kind of come from the same sort of mold as Flaming Lips, I think, in that sort of psych rock, uh, big drums, Dave Fridman, sort of sound. And that's when they first came out. I thought it was the Flaming Lips. I thought, oh wow, this sounds amazing. Where they've gone with this. Found out it was a different band. I remember me and Danny, again, another DJing story. We were DJing in, I think it was Tiger in Newcastle, and yeah, and and I just like found it, and he didn't know who it was, and I'm like, let's put this one on. He's like, oh, who's that? Who's that? I thought, it's great, trust me, put it on, and everyone was like totally buzzing to it, and then the place flooded. I don't know what happened, but there was like 5 inches of water on the floor.
All right, literally.
Yeah, we had to turn it all off and evacuate. Yeah, still got paid though. But yeah, great band. They seemed to sort of disappear when the sort of fashion for that sort of music went away, didn't it? But yeah, I've got a feeling they might have done too much acid.
No, the story about them's mad. It's like I think they got big so quickly that they didn't really even know how to play the songs live or something. They were playing
Yeah,
festivals with just like the backing track or something.
well, I can relate to that.
But I reckon this is probably my favourite by them. A lot of people will pick like Kids or Electric Feel,
Yeah,
but this was always one that resonated with me as well.
yeah, yeah. I think I've seen a video of them playing it at college. I think, like
Yeah, it's like
in the
quite a
car
famous
park.
video. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's all a bit mad. And
yeah,
then
great track.
an artist that we've talked about recently on the pod, Mercury Prize winner, Anthony and the Johnsons. I always remember like Zane Lowe playing this a lot on his radio show, but a great song of the time.
Yeah, that's one. I think we were on tour in America because I've got this memory of me in a bunk that was kind of like sideways rather than going with the flow of traffic. It was sort of like you were perpendicular to the traffic. And the only time that's ever happened is in America. And we were outside this venue in Detroit, which is where Eminem used to do his rap battles, I think, or where they filmed the rap battles in 8 Mile. And we just played a gig, and we would just started loading the gear out, and all the security like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Don't take it out there. You'll get fucking eaten alive if you go out that way. You know, bunch of like skinny white kids. So we sort of like snuck out the back, and loaded up the bus. And our Danny had I think he'd been out for something to eat or something, and he was getting a taxi back, and the taxi driver had to escort him through. Like this thing with this cars bouncing down the street.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
They do it on a Saturday, Friday or a Saturday night, and it's quite intimidating. So I was in my bunk, sort of like with my feet facing the clubs in case a bullet came through the side of the bus, listening to Anthony and the Johnsons. Hope there's someone, and just thinking this is going to be my new favorite artist. I've heard that song, but they're not really getting any of his other stuff. Like the rest of the album just didn't hit me in the same way as that one did, and I was a little bit disappointed by it. But still think that song's like just genius and absolute, truth. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and the vocals are just something very unique about them as well.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of wavering kind of vibrato that he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last band, again, kind of very critically acclaimed. Then I feel like a massive cult band, really, The National. I don't know if that's the right term for them, but
Yeah, I got into them like quite late. I mean, for a long time, people have said that they're very much like us, really, and I kind of do see a lot of sort of similarities or comparisons with them. The phone's on 10%. Um, and I've picked this one because of the timeline. It's got to be in the noughties. But also the title of it, Mistaken for Strangers. They've got a documentary out called Mistaken for Strangers, which kind of starts. It's his brother makes it. The singer's brother is the guy directing it, and it kind of starts out as being about the National, but very quickly ends up being about his brother because of his brother's character and sort of like shortcomings. Maybe he's a little bit like Zach Galifianakis in Hangover. I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but I highly recommend it. It's funny, it's touching, it's very moving, like the national art, I guess. But yeah, check that out. But yeah, Mistaken for Strangers off Boxer. Check
okay.
that.
Yes. Then obviously your album coming out in June. Talking to Jessica from from the promotion company, she said by the time this goes out, we can play either Road to Nowhere, Stop, or Up in Your Feelings. Is a one you'd want to finish on.
Go with Up in Your Feelings, I guess, because that'll be the one that's newest. If that's out, then I can't remember timeline, release schedules and stuff. But yeah, Up in Your Feelings is it's kind of a little bit groovier than we normally do. Um, yeah, so maybe go for that one. Bit more guitar-y and
Yeah,
synthy, actually. Yeah, it's cool. Have you heard it?
yeah. I was listening today. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got a bit of a preview link. I was enjoying it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
How
Proud
has
of it.
like production changed like of like in recent years, and how would you say it differs from other albums?
Um, it's a bit more upbeat, I think, generally, the album. Um, I'm really proud of it. There was a couple of songs that were sort of like hanging around that I wasn't quite happy with. And we were kind of almost ready to sign off on it, and I'm like, no, 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 we can't, no, we've got to get two more songs or two or three more songs to get so that these two aren't on it because I don't think they're good enough. And then we ended up getting like three of possibly the best ones on it, so that just elevated the album up, like in my sort of estimations. But I think it's one of our best albums, and I'm not bullshitting there. I can't bullshit if someone's not what I want. Then yeah, I can't face it.
Yeah, fair.
But I really hope it lands with the audience because we played them we played the Shine On Festival a few weeks ago, and we played three of the new songs there, and they just fucking just sounded better than all the old stuff. Because I had to actually mix the gig because we're going to be releasing it on something, I don't know what on, but and also I was sort of sat next to my other half, and she was listening to something, and before I recognised that it was us, I thought, wow, that sounds good. Who's that? And it was us playing the new songs live, and I'm like, fuck, is that what we sound like? It's like it don't sound like that in my ears. Sounded ace. So yeah, it's really really buzzing to play them again live.
Yeah, yeah. And you obviously got like a big tour coming up, kind of labeled like 30 years of the band, really. Is that the
Yeah,
vibe?
yeah. We're gonna dig out some deep cuts and pepper it with hits and new ones. Really looking forward to seeing what happens with that. Yeah, probably like good showcase most of it at the Peace Hall, I imagine. That'll be sort of like a big taster for what's to come.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, nice one, mate. Well, before we're out of battery, I'll let you go.
All right, cheers, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, nice one. Hopefully, I'll see you at one of the gigs.
Yeah, yeah. Come say hello.
Yeah, we'll do.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
cheers, mate. Cheers for
Been a
that.
pleasure, man. See you later.
In a bit.